Hi, this is Crystal Marshall from marshallstudiofphotography.com. So I had a question, how do I blog? What makes a good blog? What should I blog about? All these things. So today is everything blog, how I do it, why it's important. Okay, so let me hop you over here. Here's my main website. So today is everything blog, all the questions about how I blog, why I blog, all these things. So I'm going to first take you over to my main site. I use Wix.com for my website hosting. You can use Squarespace, which is very nice. You can use Showit. You can use WordPress. I mean, there's so many different ways that you can get a blog, get a .com, or get a, whatever. So there's lots of really cool tricks that you can use. I personally use Wix because it's like totally customizable, and like you can move anything you want around. It looks great on a mobile device. So I love Wix. That's what I do. So that's kind of the first thing. So here I am, marshallstudiofphotography.com. I have a blog tab that's worked into my website. If you want to just make just a blog, totally fine. But it's worked into my website. So first of all, what do you blog about? I like to blog about not only my photography, my sessions, my weddings, but I like to blog a lot about personal things I'm learning, things about my children. I have 3 children. I homeschool, so it's, I'm a pastor's wife, so there's a lot of things happening in my daily life. So, for example, let's go. So here you go. I send out a newsletter about once a month, and how I do that is I collect emails. Right here, so join our mailing list, and I have that as a pop-up. So when people come to my blog, they see it on Pinterest, they see it on Facebook, they see it on Google or whatever. They're going to have this thing that pops up, subscribe to my mailing list. So which is awesome. So I have right now I have about 85 people subscribed to my mailing list, even though I just started this like a few months ago. So that's awesome. They also sign up to my mailing list if they download photos from my gallery. So that's great. I can keep in constant contact with the people that are wanting to know more about me. So here you go, a newsletter, just married 5 years later. So I had like our featured shoot, I have some announcements, that kind of thing. So some other things, on my blog I always have, so I'm kind of ADD. Okay, so I have a picture of me, a little bit about me, more about us. Then I have some pictures here that are links. So see our main website, contact us, see our prices. So as people are going down my blog, even on a mobile device, they'll be able to see all these little links. Oh, I want to subscribe to her on Facebook. I want to follow her on Instagram. So there's all these different links that'll take you to different things. This is one of my most recent photography business blogs about how to fly with camera gear. So that was cool. Always try to use a catchy title, even though obviously I would have never lost somebody's wedding, but it captures people's attention that I almost lost a wedding, even though I didn't, or I would never, because I'm very conscious about that. But instead of just saying how to fly with your photography gear, you have to learn how to write a title that people are going to want to read. So, for example, maybe doing 5 things I've learned from being in college, or like one catchy title I had that had a huge amount of views, about 1,500 views just from Facebook alone, was the day that I almost got kicked out of Chick-fil-A, and that was a story about how my son threw up in a Chick-fil-A, and it was really, really awkward and really embarrassing. So that was a really cool catchy title, because everybody loves Chick-fil-A. And so how do I make the little picture here that you see here? I make that on PowerPoint, and what I do is I have like a little slide with a picture that I take. It doesn't have to be a really fancy picture that you take. I mean, it could be from your phone or whatever, and then I just put text over it. You can also do that with apps on your phone. There's tons of apps. My favorite app for doing text on a picture or animated text is called Adobe Spark Post. There's also one, Fonto, that's very good as well. So I would definitely recommend those fonts. So here's my latest wedding, Shakespeare and Company. That thunder was really loud. Okay, so how do I title things that I want Google to find it? I did a whole video about this, but what are people going to look up? Are they going to look up, Chesapeake wedding photography? Are they going to look up family photography? So naming your blog post for Google to find would be very helpful for people to find you. Okay, so on my blog here I have recent posts, people can find me. So here you go, right here. Let's see what, oh, this is my life. So I have a, okay, so this would be an example of a personal post. So I'm going to click on it here. Personal post, read more. There you go. So how do I do the photos? Now I am a photographer, so, and this is a rolling slideshow here, so that's really nice. It looks great on a mobile device. It's very interactive. Okay, so how do I do the photos? I'm obviously a photographer, but let's say you aren't a photographer per se, like you don't have like all the gear and everything, but you do have a basic camera, a basic phone camera. Try to do things that would be interesting for people to look at. Use a white backdrop, use window lighting, have it in the corner of the frame, not necessarily in the center, but maybe have your eyes trail. So I'm going to take my mouse here. So you know how I have a lot of blank space here, and then your eyes travel to my son's underwear. That's why it's funny. You know, this is my life, and I have a picture of my son's underwear. So that's why it was a catchy title. You know, muddy shoes, talking about motherhood, talking about mess, talking about imperfection, just talking about life, having fun. So use detail shots on your blog. If you're talking about a blog about, you know, inspirational thoughts, do like sunset, you know, maybe your shoes walking toward a place, maybe a coffee mug in a coffee shop, those type of things. Little detail shots are wonderful. If you can have somebody take photos of you, like a headshot for your website and that kind of thing, that's always really great. So even if you don't have a fancy camera, some tips of the trade. Use lines in your photo. For example, look, under my table I have a line from the tile, so it draws your eye into the mess. Like I said, use white, like a white background or white space to draw your image in. Use lots of natural lighting. This is taken in my, just the natural light coming in from the door. Always put your subjects on one side, like pick one side of the frame. So like this was just a bunch of toys on the floor, and there's a bunch of blank space here. So that makes it really nice to put text over. So those are just some quick tips. Using what I call a spiral in your photo, like the perfect spiral. So in photography, there's a couple ways to like frame your shots. You can have it on, you know, 1/3, you know, the last third, the top third, the bottom third. So, you know, putting your image to 1/3, either up, down, side to side, or you can put your image through a spiral so that your eyes will just naturally follow a path to, this is a perfect example. So right here, my daughter's hand is, if you follow the blocks, you'll see the spiral leaning to her hand. So those are just some quick tips how to compose your shot, how to compose some of your photos even without a fancy camera. You know, natural lighting, using lines to bring your image together so people can follow it with their eyes. Having a good headshot of yourself. I mean, my 5-year-old took this headshot with my camera, like at my mom's house. So, you know, as long as you have beautiful lighting, as long as you have, you know, a decent camera, beautiful lighting, you can take a decent headshot of yourself. So those are just some quick tips, kind of like what I do on my blog. How much do I blog? I try to blog every week. I try to blog, especially when I have a shoot, especially when I have something that's really important to me. For example, something that, you know, obviously you've seen that one, but oh, for example, when I talked about, you know, depression as a young girl, and I kind of gave a lot of personal photos about myself. I went through my old hard drives, found some really embarrassing photos of me as a middle school student, me and my dad, and you know, everybody can relate to the awkward middle school stage. Everybody can relate to being bullied. Everybody can relate to, so getting your life as personal as possible. I just put everything out there. Like, I don't even care. Like, I talk about embarrassing moments. I talk about, you know, things that, you know, for example, this was a personal post about how I was really, really emotionally overwhelmed with this whole, you know, police brutality thing, and then, how people just don't care for one another. So I did a whole post about that, and that was really near and dear to my heart. So I kind of do a little bit of everything. I do a lot of my shoots and some fluff and some fun stuff, but then I also do some of the more deep and churning things in my mind. And so I guess it just depends on what you want to blog about. How much of yourself do you want to get out there to have people read about it? Every time I blog, I'm tweeting it, I'm pinning it, I'm usually Instagramming it, sending people to my Facebook page when it goes on my Facebook page, and I Facebook page it, and I put it. So I'm probably sending it out to 3,000 people because I have all these different social media sites. Which, I mean, sometimes people don't click on it. Sometimes I get a lot of views. So it really just depends on who's interested, especially if you're using Twitter, hashtagging it with familiar hashtags, especially if you're on Instagram. Facebook is great. I'll put my personal stuff to my personal Facebook page. I'll put my business stuff to my business page. The blog is a wonderful thing, especially if you have a lot of wonderful things to say. I try to do some videos on there, but because I'm mostly a photographer, which is just like a webcam and that kind of thing, so I'm not like super into like professional videos of me talking. But hey, I will do that, and I will do some behind the scenes. For example, let's see. Under all photography tips, I have different categories that I put my blog posts under. That way people are looking, So let's see. Making your site more Google friendly. That has a video on it. Get your life back. So let me click on that one. This one is about editing through Lightroom. Get your life back. Learn how to edit an entire session under an hour. So I talk about what I do. I have a video of me actually editing a session under 45 minutes. It has like it in real time, and I have some parts fast forwarded, but I have before and after what I do. So I'm very open and honest about what I do, how my process is, and what I begin to see is through blogging, not just having a random Facebook page, but actually blogging. I've seen a lot of response. People can relate to me. People are signing up for my newsletter. People are trusting me as a person before they're even looking at my work. And that's so important to me as a business owner, because how are you going to trust somebody and invest in somebody and give, somebody, I'm asking for like $150 a session. Okay, so how is somebody going to trust me to give me $150 a session if they don't know me? They don't know me personally. So I'm trying to get as much of myself out there that I can, personal things, struggles I'm having, funny things that happen to me, stuff about motherhood, tips and tricks that I have, because for me it's about people knowing me, knowing who I am. I love, my number one compliment I always get is, I feel like I know you before I even work with you, and I love that. Another compliment I got was, it seems like you're a part of my family, because I'm very active social media. I'll comment on other people's things. I'll, tag people in stuff that I think is interesting to them. And so I just have this constant contact with my customers and with the people that I work with, which is amazing. So that way when they actually do hire me for a shoot, it's really just an extension of us already having a relationship. And that's the power of the blog, personally. Okay, so hopefully that's a quick, 5 to 10 minute tip. How to blog, what to do when you blog, kind of what I do, some things to get you started. So thank you very much. This is Crystal Marshall from Marshall Studio Photography, and have a great night.